Hey everyone, welcome to the Computer Hacking and Forensics course. My name is Ken Underhill. I will be your instructor, and we'll talk about who I am in just a little bit. Let's talk about what we're going to learn in this particular course. In Module 1, we're going to talk about computer forensics today. So we'll talk about things like, different laws that are applicable, so like the Fourth Amendment, things like HIPAA and FISMA. And don't worry about if you don't know what those stand for, we'll talk about those. In Module 2, we're going to talk about the forensic process. We're going to talk about things, like the pre-investigation phase, the investigation phase, the post-investigation phase. So kind of like what do you do as an investigator? Module 3, we'll talk about hard disk and file systems. So we're going to take kind of a high-level overview, but we'll talk about different file systems like FAT, NTFS, EXT, etc., etc. So again, don't worry about if you don't know what those stand for. We'll talk about those in that module. Module 4, we'll talk about data acquisition. So we're going to talk about live. We're also going to talk about volatile and non-volatile data. And one common thing that we'll talk about throughout the entire course is going to be something called the chain of custody. And so you'll find out what that is, and we'll kind of reference it throughout the entire course. Module 5, we have anti-forensics. So we're going to understand basically why are the bad people trying to do anti-forensics against us as investigators, and kind of what the purpose is. Module 6 will have operating system forensics, so we'll kind of touch on different file path information in the operating system, as well as some information about Windows Registry, because you may see Windows Registry tested somewhat on the exam. Module 7, we have network forensics, so we'll kind of take a high-level overview and talk about some important aspects of how we can actually use our network forensic log, so how it's admissible in a court of law. We'll talk about the hearsay federal rules of evidence. Module 8, we have web attack investigations. So we'll talk about different things like the web application architecture, things that might indicate a web attack. And then we'll talk about also some web attacks, that are common, like cross-site scripting and SQL injection. Module 9, we're going to have database forensics. So we'll talk about things like MS SQL, data storage in the SQL Server, et cetera, et cetera. So anything related to databases that you would probably need to know for your exam, we'll cover in that module. Module 10, we cover forensics in the cloud. And so here we're just going to talk about the different types of cloud computing, separation of responsibilities in a cloud environment, cloud as a subject, cloud as an object, etc. So you'll understand what all those mean, and those are going to be very important for the CHFI exam. Module 11, we talk about good old malware. So we're just going to talk about different ways that malware can enter a system. We'll talk about some tools that can be used for dynamic and static analysis. Again, I want to stress that's not a deep dive into malware analysis. We're just going to take a very high-level approach. Module 12, email. We're going to be talking about email investigation. So we'll talk about where Exchange server, the file types it's storing as, which will be important for your exam. We're also going to talk about things like the CAN-SPAM Act, if you're not familiar with it. Module 13, we'll go over mobile. So we'll talk about mobile forensics, mobile architectures, mobile storage. We'll talk about things like SIM, ICCID, IMEI, ESN. Again, a bunch of little acronyms there. But we'll talk about what those actually mean for the exam, because you will want to know mobile from a significant standpoint for the CHFI exam. And then finally, in Module 14, we're going to wrap things up with forensic reporting. So we'll talk about some of the components that you'll need in a report. We'll talk about, depositions. We'll talk about Daubert versus Frye standards. So a lot of good information in there that you may see tested on the CHFI exam. So who am I? Why am I even qualified to teach you, right? So my name is Ken Underhill, as I mentioned. I'm a certified ethical hacker as well as a computer hacking forensic investigator. Again, both those certs are through EC Council. I'm also a master instructor here at Cybrary, also an adjunct professor of digital forensics, so I kind of walk the walk, so to speak. CHFI, I do write exam questions, so I haven't written them for the version 9. I wrote them for the next version that'll be coming out. So I'm actually hoping that some of my questions will be on the exam, and then I can pat myself on the back a little bit. And then also for the CEH exam, I am one of the people that did review the newer content. So for example, most people are calling it version 10 of the CEH. So I reviewed that content, some of the modules. I can't tell you which ones, and I cannot tell you the answers for either of those exams. I also hold a Master's of Science in Cybersecurity and Information Assurance from Western Governors University, and then also an undergraduate degree in Information Systems and Cybersecurity Management. So a lot of my academic education focused on the management aspects, so like your CISO level type of stuff, as well as the Master's focused more on the technical side of things for a couple of courses where I got both the CEH and CHFI certs. I've already helped thousands of people around the world, actually tens of thousands of people around the world pass both the CEH and CHFI exam. So a little bit about the course structure, so what to expect. Here, in most videos, we're going to have like a pre-assessment. So all that's going to be is like 1 or 2 questions, just kind of testing your knowledge up front. So that way, if you're familiar with the material, you may not need to actually watch that particular video. We'll also try to incorporate some post-assessment questions to test your knowledge in each video. Again, they may not be in every single video, but we try to incorporate those throughout there just to kind of gauge your knowledge. Again, I want to stress that you need to download the supplemental material that's provided with this course. So that's going to be the notes that I actually used to study for my CHFI exam. And full disclaimer, I failed my CHFI the first time. That's what led me to be more aggressive in my studying, get better at it, and pass the second time, and then start helping others. So I've kind of been there. So if you do take the CHFI and you failed the first time, not a life or death situation. Well, hopefully not at least. But not a life or death situation. You can bounce back like I did and go ahead and pass it the second time, or even third or fourth time as some people do around. The goal is to just pass it, right? That's kind of the main goal. Also, the course is going to be primarily video lectures. We're going to have labs as well, and those will also be videos, but you'll be able to do those hands-on. And as I mentioned, labs, right? So we're going to have several labs throughout the course. Now, one thing I want to stress is that I'm going to list in the downloadable resources, I'm going to list out kind of all the possible labs that I can find in the Cybrary environment. And that's primarily if you have access to those labs. But you're welcome to set up your own labs as well. You can find different websites that'll show you how to do that. The other thing I just want to stress with the Cybrary labs is that some of them may take you like 20 to 30 minutes or even like an hour or two to just like kind of harvest the data. So that's why I did not incorporate them like in the actual filmed course, just because, it's not pragmatic time-wise to sit there just kind of silently as we, harvest data for 20 minutes. But it made more sense to kind of list those ones out. That way, if you want to go do those ones as well, you're welcome to, or just set up your own. So again, the labs that we're going to cover in this course visually in videos are going to be labs that we can essentially accomplish kind of in that, golden like 10 minutes or less type of video. So that way you can, quickly digest it, quickly look at the lab, get information about it. That way if you're at work on lunch break or something like that, we just want to kind of make it more correlated to you and your schedule compared to like us making you sit there for, an hour and a half on a lab, trying to take a look at it. So again, keep in mind, you want to make sure you download all the resources that I'm providing in this course. Is going to help you immensely, as well as I'm going to have a document listed with the different labs, so you can just quickly know which ones you should do to retain the knowledge in the course. So in this video, we just kind of talked about my background. We talked about what's going to occur in the course, as well as the course structure, kind of how it's laid out. And the next module is Module 1. We're going to talk about computer forensics today. Again, we're going to be talking about, what is digital forensics. We're also going to be talking about different laws that are applicable, like the Fourth Amendment, FISMA, and HIPAA.